So after that, Matthew continues, still verse 10, and they asked him, saying, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath days, that they might accuse him? So, and they asked him, Mark, and they watched him, whether he would heal on the Sabbath day, that they might accuse him. So, you can watch after you've asked the question, but if I only say that they watched, that would leave out that they asked the question. So I'd probably put the question from Matthew. They asked him, saying, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath days, that they might accuse him? And then I might also put, and they watched him, whether he would heal on the Sabbath. Yeah, I could put, and they watched him at the end. Or I could say they watched him, and then they asked him. No. Asking him, and then having all the attention on his response, that would be more realistic. They asked the question, and then they would watch carefully. Is he going to heal him? So I'll say watched first. What does Luke say? Luke 6:7. And the scribes and the Pharisees watched him, whether he would heal on the Sabbath day, that they might find an accusation against him. Okay, so I am going to put asked him first, and I'll put watched him at the end. But the words after watched, whether he would heal on the Sabbath day, I'll have that come first as part of the question. I'll have it in this order from Matthew, and I'll just add that extra sentence at the end. Maybe I'll put, and they watched him, and then the last sentence in this verse in Matthew. They watched him that they might accuse him. Or I could say, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath days, that they might accuse him, and they watched him? No, I'll put, and they watched him that they might accuse him. So, and they asked him. That's what I'm going to put. So that and has to come later in Mark. And the scribes and the Pharisees. I'll put that asked him. Not just, and they asked him, the scribes and the Pharisees that are asking him. So I'll put that first. And the scribes and the Pharisees, which means the and is from Matthew and Luke. Okay. Orange. And not just they, but specifically the scribes and the Pharisees. So Luke only. Now I'm done with Luke for just now. Back to Matthew. I pretty much just replaced the word they. Now, Matthew only. Asked him, saying, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath days? Okay, saying is not part of Mark or Luke because they're only watching. Saying, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath days? Mark. Whether he would heal on the Sabbath days. I'm going to have to skip whether and he and would heal on the Sabbath days. Heal him on the Sabbath days. So that I'm going to have to skip that him because they're just asking if it's lawful to heal, period. They're watching to see if they would heal him, but the question is about working on the Sabbath. And again, this is Jesus contradicting their bad, ungodly, control-based laws. And these are laws. They're man's laws. They're laws put in place by them. They're not God's laws, but they are laws. You can call them an ordinance nowadays, a tradition that they put in place and they demand it be followed through or else it's going to be punishment. What else could you define as a law? Something you must follow or else be punished or fined. This is Jesus willfully, openly, in front of everyone, doing God's will, specifically contrary to their man-made laws, statutes, ordinance, whatever you want to call it. And therefore, that's what we should do as well. Saying, because is it lawful? That's not in Mark or Luke. Whether he would heal on the Sabbath day, they might accuse him. Yeah. Whether he would heal on the Sabbath day, yeah. So this question, is it lawful? That's only in Matthew. Is it lawful to, and then heal is from all three. On the Sabbath days, Mark. Heal him on the Sabbath day. Luke. Heal on the Sabbath day. Heal on the Sabbath day. Heal on the Sabbath days. So okay, I'm just going to go one word at a time because I'm getting myself confused. Heal. So I'm not putting him because they're questioning. From Matthew and Luke, it both says whether he's just going to heal, period, on the Sabbath day as to do work. On the Sabbath day. I could put days. Sabbath days. Every one of them says Sabbath day or Sabbath days, so I'm not going to cut out that word. I had the option earlier, but now it's in all three, so I'm not going to do that. I will keep it day in Luke, day in Mark, days in Matthew. Sabbath day or Sabbath days. I think I'm going to put days, plural, because there's more than just the seventh day of the week. It's also the high Sabbath days, which they were still required to do no work. So this days is more encompassing of what they might be talking about. So I'll do that. Day, and then only in red is the S at the end of day. And the question mark, because they're just watching. They're not asking him in Mark. So it's not in Mark. Luke, yeah, it's not there. But I am putting the question, which means that the question mark has to be there as well. And it's still only Matthew. Now, before I put this last sentence in Matthew, that they might accuse him, I am going to put that they watched him. And they watched him is 2a in Mark, Luke. So just watched him is at the end of the scribes and the Pharisees. There's not a they, because that was the replacement for the they in Matthew. And I used the and already, so I use and they from Mark only. And they, now watched him is from Mark and Luke, comma after Luke, comma in Mark. Now the last sentence in Matthew, that they might accuse him, is already lowercase. Look at that. That they might accuse him. Okay, so this is how it reads. And the scribes and Pharisees asked him, saying, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath days? And they watched him that they might accuse him. You know, I could, if I really wanted to have all the words, and I could put more emphasis on the fact that Jesus is breaking their ungodly, man-made, control-based laws, I could say, first, that they watched him from Mark and Luke. And they watched him whether he would heal on the Sabbath day, that they might accuse him. Then I could put, and the scribes and the Pharisees asked him, saying, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath days? I could have it twice. No, but it's not twice in any of the Gospels. It's only once. So I'll just leave it as it is. Yeah, I'll leave it. It's good.